All right, so today we're bringing in Charles DeLong, plays for Texas Tech University, played at Grand Valley State prior to Texas Tech. Charlie grew up in East Lansing area in Michigan, kind of Michigan State country there. Went to DeWitt High School, then played at Grand Valley State. Had a ridiculous career at Grand Valley State. I don't know how many times you won. I was gonna look it up, but I didn't really care to, and I don't know if it's how updated it is anyway. But I think you won 8 or 9 times your last year alone. Correct?
I think seven, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, a lot. Um, and then that year averaged 68 point something, just a ridiculous scoring average. Won the Jack Nicklaus Award, kind of in a landslide, right? Like I don't know how close it actually was. So it was number one ranked player in Division Two that final year. Played in your first U.S. Amateur as well at Ridgewood Country Club in New Jersey, and then made the transfer to Texas Tech after you graduated from Grand Valley State, and now you are 31st on PGA Tour U, even with being a semester behind, which is ultra impressive. So you didn't play that first fall of what would be like your junior year, right? For PGA Tour U, and so you've only had 2 semesters so far, and you're 31st when other guys have 3 semesters on it. So it's pretty impressive. And in the top 25, you start getting some status on PGA Tour affiliated. So, we'll come back to that, Charlie. Just kind of a list of your accomplishments. Played the USAM again this summer at Hazeltine. Pretty great career thus far. And I know you're looking for it to continue getting better. But let's turn the clocks back to when you were in high school because we want this to be able to help, parents and younger players who are looking to play at the next level. So, just like I did with Alex Scott, let's talk about the recruiting process a little bit. Obviously, you both ended up at the same place, but let's talk about things that you thought you did well, and then things that you, looking back, you think you could have done better.
Yeah, I think things I thought I did well is going to somewhere where it just felt like home. Everyone says that, but it's hard to really put into words other than just you meet the guys, you meet the coach, and it just there's something inside you. It just feels right about that program.
Yeah.
Um, but on the flip side, things I didn't do so well, I think the biggest thing guys can do is just get their name out there to as many coaches as possible, and doing your research on which programs are realistic and where you want to go. And every opportunity that you can, just get your name out there and let those coaches know you're interested. And who knows, maybe big program will take a shot on you. But um, I think that's something I didn't understand as well. I don't think I reached out to many of the programs I should have been. I probably reached a little too high on the top end and then didn't just have a knowledge of lower level golf to really reach out to many programs that were probably in my wheelhouse. So, I mean, I'm happy how it worked out, but I think getting your name out there more than I did is important.
I think one thing that you touched on that's really important is like I always try and advise kids, let's go to a place like there's that gut feeling you get at certain places, and you don't want to ignore that, right? And then I think going to a place that you can play, which Alex and I talked about, is really important. Like, and he made a great point as well of like, if you're riding the bench, even if you're getting better, no one's going to see it. So there's no benefit from that. And you're not throwing yourself in the fire and having to play competitively every week and getting used to that grind, especially if you're someone who, wants to play at the next level. You've got to get used to that weekly grind and the travel because, professional golf is a lonely deal, and anyone playing professionally without a family will tell you that, right? Like you're on the
And
road by yourself all the time.
yeah, golf's also so much about confidence and self belief. If you're not even playing in tournaments, it's kind of hard to build that and trust that the work you're putting in is working because there's no result to it.
Yeah, and another thing that you and I have talked about over and over that you benefited from, going to a Division II school was with your skill level and the fact that you clearly could have been playing Division 1 the entire time and probably at a pretty high level. But you choosing to go to Division 2 put you into contention every single week. I mean, it was very rare that you would have a week go by where you were finishing 20th. I mean, maybe a handful of times your first 2 years, but when you played well, you got into contention and you were learning how to win. And then you got so good by your junior and senior year that you could play average and you were still in the hunt on the final day. And a lot of times we're able to overcome not having your best stuff and get a win, which I think is an invaluable tool that you learned. And now that's helping you succeed at really the highest level of college golf at Texas Tech. So,
Yeah. Well, just nerves are something that everyone deals with, and when you haven't felt that kind of nerves of being in contention before, it can be overwhelming. So getting those reps in, and I mean, just going somewhere you can play can't be stated enough as like probably the number one factor you should be looking for if you want to improve your golf game.
no question about it. And so I think, so the advice would be to younger players is go somewhere you're going to play and go somewhere that at least feels somewhat like home, right? Like I think if we're looking at the checklist, I think you'll get a gut feeling when you get on campus and you're walking around, right? You'll kind of know, is this a place that I could be happy? I think hopefully you can get to know, you can't always during a visit, but maybe you can meet some of the guys that are currently on the team, right? See if you feel like you're a fit for them as far as the culture is concerned and the type of personalities on that team. And then the coach is certainly important. Like you obviously want to play for a coach that you work well with and that you feel like has your best interest at heart. But at the same time, I do always try and warn like parents and players like the coach should be a little further down the list because at the end of the day, you don't know if you're going to play for that coach the whole time, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's always something that is up in the air, right? Especially if it's a really good coach, and that's kind
Yeah.
of the catch 22 to that is like I could go because I want to play for this really good coach, but it's also possible he's going to get lured away by some other schools. You never know. So not to say it's not important, but I don't personally believe that should be at the top of the priority list.
Yeah, and nowadays, if you're playing any type of mid to high level golf, you probably have your own swing coach or whatnot. So you already have some stability on the coaching side. So, and at the end of the day, a lot of improvements, how hard you want to work on your own. Coach can give you structure, but if you're not going to do it, it isn't that big of a factor.
Yeah. So let's talk about Texas Tech. Okay, so now you went from Division two, but you played a high level of Division two because your team was very competitive and making the national championship, and so you got to see at the top of D two, and this is something that gets misunderstood that you and I obviously both know very well. The best players in Division two are damn good,
Hmm.
right? Now the depth isn't there. By the time you get to the 300th ranked player in Division two, that guy's not even sniffing the 300th ranked player in Division One.
Yeah.
However, a guy like Chandler Blanchett, Adam Svensson played D2. Like the top 10 to 15 guys in Division Two, those guys typically would be very successful at Power Four, Power Five, whatever you want to call it these days, programs. But now you make the jump to where in D2, you realistically were competing against five or six guys in every tournament, right? Like you were so good, there was only a handful of guys that could beat you even when you didn't have your best stuff. Now you're playing at a level which is the highest level of college golf. I believe Texas Tech has one of the toughest, if not the toughest schedule in Division One collegiate golf. And so every week you're teeing it up against 110 guys that all can shoot 65 on any given day, right? So it puts a little more pressure on that. But let's talk first just about Texas Tech itself and being there and being on that good of a team where you've got multiple guys who are top 100 in Wagger. Even within your own team, it is so competitive week to week. So talk about some of the things that you see out of your team and kind of what the difference is of what a top Division One team looks like day in and day out and what that culture really is.
Yeah, and just touching back on that schedule piece you mentioned, like we had a lightish fall schedule. We played four events, but two of them were at major championship venues, and the other two are at regular PGA Tour stops. So you're playing not only against the best competition, but you're also playing professional golf setups every week. So I think that's what the why the transition's been pretty easy for some of these guys coming off PGA Tour U right onto Corn Ferry and then PGA Tour is because the atmosphere and the pressure is a little different, but the golf itself, some people say it gets easier from college golf to say Corn Ferry. So that's been a really cool thing for me, just getting comfortable on these super difficult golf courses and learning how to play a little bit different style of golf where you're not just looking to make birdie on every hole. Um, but as far as my team and just high level Division 1 golf, I mean, that was the one of the main reasons I wanted to come here is just to have that competition with really really good players day in day out, not just in tournaments. Like you said, I think right now we've got four, maybe four top 50 players and at least five in the top 100. So I mean, just out here chipping, putting, you're, you're exposed if a part of your game is weak because everyone is so good at everything. And just the mentality everyone has, I'm pretty sure pretty much everyone on the team's goal is to play professional golf. So you can kind of see that in guys' routines and just how they conduct themselves because everyone's basically treating the 4 years they have here as prep to play professional golf.
Yeah, and that is how the best players view it, right? Like I'm going to go to college to get immersed in elite competition, and then start to build my game up and get ready to even further that at the next level. So really famous guy that came out of Texas Tech, right? Young and upcoming guy. Let's talk about him a little bit. I know you've gotten to know Ludvig Aberg. Well, you've played with him a handful of times. I know he's coming and spoken with the team, and he hangs around a little bit still when he's got off weeks. And I think most of us in the golf world, we'll see. Obviously, there's a lot that can happen and a lot still to unfold. But Scheffler's so dominant right now, and I think most of the golf world, including myself, is looking at a guy like Aber like this could be the challenger, right? This could be the guy that because how old is he now? 23, 24.
One of those, but I think 24.
Yeah, so he's still very, very young. He's already played in a Ryder Cup. We see the big, tall, strong frame, the gorgeous golf swing,
Mhm.
right? Which we could get into a lot of things that make his golf swing so good, but it's pretty incredible. So in your time with him so far, right, and with being able to speak with him and learn from him, what have you kind of picked up on from him that you think helps separate him outside of obviously the physical tools that he has?
I This is a good question because the mental coach he works with also works with us as well. And a lot of our discussions with our mental coach is just referencing Ludwig and how good he is in that space. Um, Nothing seems to rattle or shake him. Like he seems more comfortable the bigger the moment. Um, and he's just impressive to be around. I mean, he's a great guy, but on the golf course, he's just so calm. Like nothing matters to him. If he makes a bogey, it's like, well, I'm the fifth best player in the world. Like I'm gonna figure this out. And the big thing he's talked about is understanding that how rarely you have your best game, um, and
Hmm.
managing that. I mean, every golfer knows you get that maybe 1 out of 20 round where your swing feels good and you're hitting a lot of shots how you picture them, but 95% of the time you're just managing what feels like a poor ball striking day. Um, I think that's been a big improvement for me too, is really understanding your misses and just knowing your own golf game because you can start to pick targets and game plan for yourself. I mean, there's always going to be a correct play and percentage wise and statistically, but you just have to know yourself and your tendencies, and that what he does, I think, really well. Him and his caddy work on that a lot.
Yeah, I think, that's something as coaches we try to instill in our players. Like everybody wants their golf swing to feel great every week and, not have any issues where the better you get, the more you realize it's about being good when you don't have your best stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, Tom Gillis, who friend of mine, right, played on the PGA Tour for a long time and Champions Tour. And he said something that always stuck with me, like when he's evaluating, because he'll play with a lot of great junior players from time to time, and he says, when I'm looking at a guy who's younger, right, I'm not in deciding how good this guy's going to be. I'm not impressed by someone who can shoot 68 when they're playing well. Like anybody who's any good, right, can shoot a good score when everything's going their way. It's who can shoot 70 or 71 when they don't have their best stuff and be able to manage that. And like you just said, that's like 75% of the time, right?
Yeah.
Like this is not a sport where you're going to go in every round and golf swing feels perfect. And so the last thing I want to touch on, just branching off of that, was a conversation you and I had recently, and something you've noticed in the culture at Texas Tech, and I've certainly noticed it every great program I've ever been around and great players is needing to play a lot of golf, right? Like, of course, we need to practice and we have to work on our skills and our fundamentals, and we all know that, right? But if you want to be a successful collegiate golfer or professional golfer, you can't play golf 2 days a week, right? And a lot of these guys, they're trying to do that. They're practicing pretty hard. But if you don't get on the course and learn how to figure it out and score when you don't have your best stuff, you're never going to reach that upper echelon.
Well, it's like any sport, really. Like, if you want to be a good basketball player, you can't just go shoot wide open jump shots 24/7. Like, these things
Correct.
help you, but live action and actually playing the game are by far the most important thing you can do. And that's one of the things Ludvig has told us as well is he didn't, well, not that he didn't understand, but his biggest surprise going from college golf to professional golf is the amount of golf he's playing. I mean, you're playing Tuesday through Sunday the whole week, and I mean every week, week in out, week out, it's you're almost playing golf every day. So I think if you are someone who's trying to go to play college golf and then get to the professional level, like getting used to that early, and I mean getting used to it is also a great way to practice because playing golf is the best tool you have.
Absolutely. So, last thing we'll end on here. I know I'm going to catch you kind of on the spot here, but if you were talking to a junior player, right, a 15, 16, 17-year old, so what would be your simplest advice for how to get better, right? So, you're a guy that has climbed so much so quickly, right? You weren't the greatest high school player. Not that you were a bad one by any means, but you weren't the greatest junior player. And then you went to a school that is a little more under the radar, a Northern D2 school. And despite all that, and having not much of a budget, and like we can talk about all that stuff too, but like you were still able, no matter what the circumstance, to raise your game. So not everyone has the greatest facilities in the world or all the resources in the world. So, what would be a piece of advice you'd give to 15, 16-year olds of no matter what your situation, here's how you can get better?
Um, yeah, I think if you want it bad enough, you're gonna find a way. Um, I mean, I know like you guys with Alex, like he just has that desire and want to get better. I have that inside myself too. So, I mean, dealing with winter and not great conditions in the north, like you just find a way. I I don't know. It's a hard conversation because it's something I feel like is innate to you, and a lot of great athletes just have that in them. Is they they want to do it. Like there's nothing in their mind that says this isn't my future, and they have just a desire and want to get better. And then as far as actual golf practice goes, I've kind of found it interesting in myself over the last probably 8, 9 months. It's probably the least I've practiced volume wise since I've got to college, even since high school, really. But I've really tried to have a plan every day and not just go to the course. Like you can go to the course and mess around on the short game and putting all you want, but having a plan and having certain drills you can track and stick to over a period of time and actually see results, I think is really important. That's helped me a lot over the last year, really, is not just wasting time at the course and really like having a plan and then going and do it. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there's not a lot to be learned by hitting 157 irons on the range, right? That's not always the best use of our time. I do want to backpedal just a little bit, and we can end on this. Of I thought one thing that you said that was fantastic. There are some things that can't be coached, right? Like the internal desire to be great. And so you played for me for 4 years. You obviously know my coaching style and kind of what I believe in. And I've always preached toughness to a certain extent, right? Like I think you have to be mentally tough. And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But as I've gotten deeper into my career, I'm starting to redefine toughness as desire, which is an exact word that you use, right? So, like, easy example that I've started to pick up on is if a guy wakes up and maybe he's a little under the weather, or maybe he's got a cold. I mean, if it's the flu or strep throat, that's a totally different story. But, a guy's not feeling his best. And if they decide that day, like I'm a little sick today, I think I'm going to take today off. Okay. To me, that's some would look at that as a lack of toughness. I've learned to redefine it. It's a lack of desire. Because here's one thing I know: if you wake up a little sick, maybe your throat's a little scratchy and you're stuffy, right? And you're not super high on energy. If I said, Charlie, if you walk 2 miles in this direction, there's going to be $1 million waiting for you. Like you're going to get out of bed and you're going to do that. Right? Like
Yeah.
probably even if you have strep throat. So that desire when it kicks in, like it overcomes all the other stuff, right? The I'm tired today. I don't feel my best today, and we can find the greatest athletes of all time consistently talking about this, right? Like I've got some great stuff with Tom Brady, some interviews that I've saved with him where he's like, it doesn't matter if you're sick, it doesn't matter if you're tired. Like someone is out there getting better than you right now, and you've got to have that desire of like, I'm not going to accept that at all.
Co- Kobe comes to mind too. It seems like there's 100 clips of him saying similar stuff, just like it didn't matter what was going on. Like him, Jordan, Tom Brady, like they all want to be the best so bad that like that's the only thing on their mind. The sore throat's just like in their way.
100%. Yeah, and I've seen you win golf tournaments sick. I remember watching Alex Scott throw up 3 times and win a golf tournament in Florida by like 7. So if the desire is there, that other stuff generally gets pushed to the side. So thank you for coming on today, Charlie, and good luck the rest of your season at Texas Tech. And we'll be hoping you get that top 25 on PGA Tour U. You're pretty close, so keep working hard, and we'll be rooting you on.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.